What damage can noise cause? Noise can have temporary and permanent effects. Noise can affect the nerve cells in your inner ear, causing a temporary reduction in hearing. Most temporary hearing loss recovers in 24 hours under quiet conditions. There may be ringing or buzzing in your ear too. This is called tinnitus. Repeated exposure to loud noise over time may cause permanent hearing loss. This is called noise-induced hearing loss, and it usually happens over many years. Noise-induced hearing loss reduces a person's ability to hear high-pitched sounds. How much hearing loss a person has depends on the noise level, how long they are exposed to it, and their susceptibility. Noise-induced hearing loss can also come from sudden loud noises, like explosions or heavy hammering. If the noise is loud enough, the damage can be immediate. Noise-induced hearing loss can't be repaired.
Hearing loss often happens slowly over time. Most people don't notice when it starts. You might find yourself struggling to follow conversations, especially when there's background noise, or asking people to repeat themselves more often. You might even start to notice a ringing sound in your ears. That's because the effects of workplace noise don't simply stop when the noise does. In most cases, noise-induced hearing loss happens gradually as the tiny sensory hair cells in your ear become damaged. And once they're damaged, they don't recover. That damage is permanent.
Noise is a physical hazard. It's a pressure wave that carries energy through the air and into your ears. We measure that energy in decibels, but the decibel scale isn't a straight line. Every increase of just 3 decibels is a doubling of sound energy into your ears. Because of this, the higher the noise level, the less time it takes for a worker to reach the exposure limit. Now, there's 2 key exposure limits to help workplaces manage hazardous noise. Now, the first limit is an 8-hour equivalent of 85 decibels. This accounts for the total noise dose, or the total amount of energy that someone's exposed to throughout a full shift. But remember, for every 3 decibel increase, the sound energy doubles and the exposure time is halved. An 8-hour equivalent of 85 decibels could look like 88 decibels for 4 hours, 91 decibels for 2 hours, or 100 decibels for just 15 minutes. These are actually all the same dose of noise. Now, the second exposure limit is 140 decibel peak. This is like a ceiling. Regardless of how short or brief the sound is, any single impact or blast that reaches 140 decibels can cause immediate structural damage to the ear.
Noise-induced hearing loss is progressive, painless, and permanent, but it's also preventable. Protecting your hearing means avoiding high-intensity peaks and reducing the total amount of noise energy you're exposed to over time. Visit the WorkSafe website for further information on managing noise in your workplace.
Noise exposure standard. Sound pressure level is measured in decibels. The Occupational Health and Safety Regulations set a noise exposure standard for workplaces. If employees are exposed to noise that is above this standard, the workplace is too noisy. Noise exposure measurements are taken at an employee's ear position. The standard is in 2 parts, 85 decibels averaged over an 8-hour period, or at a maximum noise level of 140 decibels. Is noise a problem on your project? Noise is a problem in the workplace when employees have to raise their voice to communicate at a distance of 1 meter, or if employees have a temporary reduction in hearing, or ringing in the ears after leaving work for the day. See the Noise Compliance Code for a checklist to help identify noise hazards, and to understand how to calculate if noise standards are exceeded in your workplace. If it's not clear if there is a noise problem, some spot noise measurements may help. You may need to get a noise assessment done by a qualified person.
When controlling noise in the workplace, exposure to noise may still remain, even after applying the highest order controls, so far as is reasonably practicable. In these cases, lower order controls must be used to reduce the employee's exposure to noise. These include administrative controls and the provision of hearing protectors. Unlike higher order controls, administrative controls don't remove the hazard. They change how and when the work is done and need to be supported with monitoring and supervision. Some examples might include rotating workers through tasks, limiting time spent in noisy areas, or rescheduling noisy activities. These approaches can reduce both the duration of exposure and the number of people exposed. Hearing protection is a type of PPE and is often the most visible control to noise exposure, but it's also one of the easiest to get wrong. It only works if it's suitable for the level of noise, worn correctly, and worn every time it's needed. When selecting hearing protection, employers must consider the nature and level of noise, the duration of noise exposure, and the systems of work at the workplace. They should also consider compatibility with other PPE. It's important not to overprotect, as too much noise reduction can create new safety risks. For example, overprotection might lead to a person not hearing moving vehicles. Workers must be trained in how to properly fit and use their hearing protection. If it's worn incorrectly or inconsistently, it may provide little or no protection at all. If hearing protection is being relied on to reduce exposure below limits, audiometric testing of employees becomes mandatory. This testing must occur within 3 months of employees starting the work requiring hearing protectors, and at least every 2 years. At any time, a health and safety representative can also request audiometric testing of employees. If testing shows hearing loss linked to workplace noise exposure, controls must be reviewed and improved. Workplaces need to clearly identify hearing protection zones. These are areas where noise levels require hearing protection and where anyone entering should wear it, including workers and contractors. Audiological testing might also be required. It's important to monitor all risk controls to ensure they remain effective. Work through the hierarchy of control, and remember, administrative controls and hearing protection should always be a last resort, used when higher order controls can't fully eliminate the risk. Visit the WorkSafe website for more information on managing noise in your workplace.
Controlling noise risk. The OH&S regulations have specific requirements for the control of noise above the exposure standard. They set out specified risk control measures to be used in order. Work through the following list to control noise risks. This is called the hierarchy of control. Eliminate the source of the noise. You must always try to do this first. For example, stop using a noisy machine. Use substitution or engineering controls to reduce noise exposure. You may need a combination of these measures. Substitution means using quieter plant or processes. For example, replace hammering nails with a process for gluing wood. An example of an engineering control is building an enclosure around a noise source. Use administrative controls to reduce noise exposure. For example, rotate employees between noisy and quiet jobs. And lastly, provide hearing protectors, like earmuffs or earplugs, to reduce noise exposure.
Exposure to hazardous noise can damage your hearing. There's 2 key exposure limits to determine if noise is hazardous. The first exposure limit is an 8-hour equivalent of 85 decibels. The second is a peak limit of 140 decibels. Now, if either of these limits are exceeded, employers must control the risk using the hierarchy of control. The most effective way to manage noise is to remove the noise source entirely. But in most cases where it can't be removed, the next best option is to swap the noise source for something quieter. For example, replacing a noisy compressor with a screw compressor can be a great way to reduce noise exposures. Now, if we can't control noise using substitution, the focus should shift to engineering controls. Engineering controls can be broadly grouped into 2 categories: source controls or path controls. Source controls reduce the noise at the source by modifying the equipment in some way. This can look like installing damping materials or absorbent materials to reduce the vibration on metal chutes, or it could be as simple as replacing nozzle tips on airlines. Quieter nozzles can produce a smoother airflow with less turbulence and help cut out that excessive noise at the source. Path controls work a bit differently. They interrupt the noise before it reaches the worker. Think barriers, enclosures, things that can block, absorb or redirect the noise in some way. These controls don't have to be complicated. There's a lot of practical and cost-effective ways to reduce noise levels.
Choosing the right solution is a collaborative and consultative process with your team. The people working closest to the noise often understand it best and can help identify practical ways to reduce it. If noise can't be eliminated or replaced, engineering controls are the most effective way to reduce exposure. By treating the source or the path, you can protect hearing without solely relying on personal protective equipment. Using the hierarchy of control to manage noise is practical, proactive, preventative, and protective. Visit the WorkSafe website for more information on managing noise in your workplace.
Revise risk controls. Review your risk controls to make sure they are working properly. You must review and, if needed, revise them if, for example, there are changes to the way work is done, such as changes to plant, that could cause exposure to noise above the exposure standard. If there is a report of hearing loss, or a notifiable incident occurs where there has been exposure to noise above the exposure standard, or when our HSR makes a request. If an employee needs hearing protection to reduce their exposure below the standard, you must provide audiometric testing within 3 months of when they start the relevant work, and at least every 2 years. Hallmarc must also provide testing upon a reasonable request by the employee's health and safety representative.